I want to talk about a topic today which has been something that I've had to personally struggle through as a pet owner. Is it okay to have pets? And I've got 5 questions today that we're going to have a look through. So, first question is, why do humans have pets? Question 2 is, do pets cause damage to the environment? Question 3, are pets happy to be with humans? Question 4, how much is the pet industry worth? And question 5, is it ever justifiable to have a pet? I wanted to start with this question, why do humans have pets? Because I guess that kind of sets the ground for everything else we'll talk about today. And I kind of thought of 5 different main reasons. I'm sure there are other variables. And the first one is comfort. So we like having a fluffy, cute, cuddly animal around, or some therapeutic fish swimming in a tank. It helps us to relax and enjoy life more, basically. Secondly is health. A lot of people, for example, will get a pet dog because they have to go out for walks, and it helps them to get more exercise. And it's also good for the mental health. There are therapy animals for a reason, therapy horses, therapy dogs, because people feel better around animals. I guess animals aren't entrapped by the human restraints on life. They're not stressed out by the environment we've created for ourselves. And we enjoy getting that good feeling that we get from animals. The third reason I put down is work. There are plenty of animals that do a job. There are horses that pull things along. There are guide dogs that help and assist people who aren't able to see. There are dogs that help people hunting, so they retrieve a bird that's been shot, for example. There are many different jobs for different animals all over the world. Number 4 is entertainment. We really, I guess, find animals amusing. YouTube is filled with lots of different pet videos where you can watch rabbits doing funny things, or monkeys, or cats, or dogs, or whatever. It's absolutely saturated with that content. People love animals and they love being entertained by them. Number 5, money. There's a lot of money to be made. People breed exotic animals or dogs and cats, and they sell them on and make profit from it. So there's a lot of profit to be made in the pet industry. And there's also things like dog racing and horse racing, and illegal things like dog fighting as well. But these are all things that humans do to make profit from the animals. I guess that kind of sums up the reasons why we have pets. It's basically mainly on the selfish kind of side of things. It's to improve our lives. It's not really particularly to give back to the animals per se. Having said all of that, I would love to delve into the next topic. Do pets damage the environment? I have some unfortunate statistics here. And I have to say, like, for me personally, this is all really difficult to go through, but it was really kind of heartbreaking to see the impact of the pet industry on our planet. There are roughly 500 million pet dogs on this planet, which is an insane amount. Those dogs consume roughly 54.6 million tons of dog food a year. Most of that comes from very unhappy animals at the worst kind of scale of treatment. And if that was pure meat, that would be equivalent of 68.25 billion chickens a year just for dogs alone. It would be a little bit less because dog food is normally made up more 30% meat and 70% from various other things. Either way, that's a lot of food waste and obviously a lot of packaging that comes with that. Let's go to the dog poop, a favorite topic. If every dog owner in the world used 2 dog poop bags a day, which is kind of what we use on average, that would equate to 365 billion dog poop bags a year, which is a ginormous amount. As you probably know, most of those bags are plastic. A lot of them tout themselves as being recyclable plastic, but I think many of us secretly deep down know that many of those recyclable plastic bags aren't good for the environment, and they might break down into microplastics. A lot of them won't even really break down, they're just basically normal plastics, because companies have got onto the environmental chain, and they think if they make their brands appear more environmentally friendly, they're going to sell more, basically. Then we have the dog toys. I think most dog owners that I know have at least 10 toys for their dog, most of which are made from plastic. And if you multiply it by 500 million dogs, that's a hell of a lot of waste being created, because they rip the toys up, then we throw them out, then we buy new toys and they rip those up and then we throw them out. Not particularly good for the environment. There are over 200 million stray dogs in the world. A single German shepherd wearing a collar in New Zealand was responsible for killing 500 kiwi birds which is a very endangered bird in New Zealand. 500 birds killed by one dog, and endangered birds, that's absolutely crazy. And that was the dog that was owned by somebody. 12 ownerless dogs were responsible for nearly completely wiping out populations of the endangered Fijian ground frog in Viwa Islands. So yeah, nearly eradicated a species, 12 dogs. Pretty crazy. This is slightly related because it does kind of infect the environment. It infects the natural balance of things, not just humanity. But dogs are responsible for nearly all of 55,000 human deaths via rabies per year. And so we can presume those dogs are also responsible for deaths of wild animals. That's a lot of damage, environmentally speaking. Let's move on to cats. An estimated 275 million wild animals are killed a year by pet cats in the UK alone. Those animals include 55 million birds, rabbits, squirrels, mice, frogs, lizards, snakes, hedgehogs, rats, etc. In America, cats, both owned and unowned, but all domesticated, are responsible for between 1.4 and 3.7 billion bird deaths and between 6.9 and 20.7 billion mammal deaths, which are insane figures. There are an estimated 220 to 600 million pet cats on planet Earth. The Scottish wild cat became functionally extinct due to interbreeding with domesticated cats in 2018. That's 2018, that's not extinct in 1970 or in the year 1700, that's 2018, that was a couple of years ago pretty much. If we took the minimum cat population estimate of 220 million cats, domestic cats, then cats would eat a minimum of 9.61 million tons of cat food a year, which again primarily comes from poorly treated animals. Feral cats, so that have arrived from pet cats, now cover 99.8% of Australia at an average of one cat for every 4 square kilometres. They're causing untold damage on the local wildlife. The feral cats are believed to be responsible for extinction of 20 species of wild animals in Australia alone. That's 20 species of wild animals completely gone because of pet cats in one country. I have a quote here from a doctor in Australia, it's Dr. Christopher Dickman. He says, "Cats are killing machines. A cat might kill 10 mice to satisfy its hunger and keep itself going through the night, but if it comes across another 50, it will kill them anyway just for the hell of it." I think it's kind of safe to presume that pet cats, at least that are able to roam around, are not too great for the environment. I'm not going to cover every type of pet because that is such a massive topic, but I will go over to fish because it's something that I have previous experience with. As a kid, I used to own fish growing up. I also later worked in a pet shop which specialised in fish. With fish, there are normally 3 different sections. You've got cold water, tropical, marine. I'm going to focus on marine just because unfortunately that has the worst reputation, but I will say all of those different sectors in the aquatic realm have bad environmental past. 95% of marine fish sold as pets are taken directly from the wild. That is insane. So when you go into a pet shop and you see these marine fish going around, they used to be swimming on the Great Barrier Reef or off the Gulf of Mexico completely freely. Someone came, took them away, carted them all the way over to the UK or whatever country you live in, and now they're available in a tiny tank for sale. I think that's not the best thing personally. Over 20 million sea fish, 12 million coral, and 10 million other types of marine fish or life, that includes shrimps, anemones, crabs, etc., are taken from the wild every year for fish keeping hobbyists. Fish are collected from coral reefs using cyanide, which stuns the fish but ultimately kills half of the target fish in the water. 40% of the fish that survive collection die in transit to pet shops. And then from experience personally of working in an award-winning aquatic shop, fish die in the pet shop too. These fish are really not going through the best life and situation. So just to further that, the cyanide used to collect the fish also kills coral on the reef, and marine scientists have rated that as one of the biggest threats to ocean coral reefs, which is crazy. So pet fish or marine pet fish in corals is actually a direct threat to the survival of coral ecosystems across the planet. Obviously that is a very damaging hobby in that sense. It's fairly safe to say that having pets is not very good for the environment. All right, question 3. Are pets happy to be with humans? I think this is kind of an open question and many people can have different opinions on this. I will firstly say that it depends on the owner and it depends on the pet. So if you have a very good owner that gives a lot of time and energy and attention to their pet, and they also ensure that they have a very healthy diet and good exercise, then they could be considerably happy. But on the other scale of thing, you can get owners who are not very good at looking after their pets, and I'm sure we've all heard terrible stories. I will say that it's very incredibly rare that a wild animal will choose to go into a human's dwelling and make themselves a pet. There are instances of animals that become fairly tame and they visit once a morning to get some food, and then they go back out into the wild. Even that, on the grand scale of things, is fairly rare. And so just from that perspective, it would appear that animals aren't deliberately trying to become our pets. I want to have a little look at budgies in particular, kind of like highlighting the plight of birds within captivity. So budgie, I'm sure we all know, is the cute little green or blue birds normally that people have in a cage in the window that makes some cheerful chirping and makes people happy. And quite often people get that as a therapeutic pet to brighten up their day and to make their living space nicer and more friendly. Budgies in the wild will travel up to 400 kilometers a day. So that's a lot of flying and a lot of space that they need in the wild. In the wild, they live in big flocks. They can be in flocks up to as many as 10,000 individuals or even more. Quite often in the house environment, it's one budgie by itself, which is terrible for a social animal. And quite often the cage is maybe this big. And if you compare that with having the ability to fly 400 kilometers a day, they migrate thousands of kilometers. Definitely not what the budgie would choose, I'm guessing. I will make one point that some people can raise as to why pets would be happy to be with humans, and that's longevity. Basically, it's been proven that pets will live longer under the right circumstances, and I stress under the right circumstances, than their wild counterparts. I think there's a famous cockatoo that stayed, so that was in the zoo, but we can kind of call that a pet. I think it lived for 86 years. And you've got other examples of dogs and cats living far longer than they would do if they were in the wild. That could be argued as a reason why an animal would prefer to stay with humans. I think generally speaking, if we think about a dog, like the wolf or a fox would be a wild counterpart, how much time they have engaging with their natural environment, going for walks, they're hunting, they're doing a job. Good humans will walk their dogs 2 hours a day, which is nothing compared to the wild. Human environments aren't very exciting for a dog compared to what's out there in a garden, pales in comparison to the forest. If a dog really had a choice, or a cat really had a choice, house cat in particular, to be in the wild, in the optimum environment, or to be in the house, I'm guessing they would choose the wild. Unfortunately, we've bred a lot of animals or pets in such a way that they can't survive in the wild, so that's a different debate. I just want to also cover the diet. So a diet of a wild animal can be much healthier than the diets we often feed our pets. We often feed them cheap meat that's been heavily processed, affected by chemicals. It's undoubtedly not as good for the health of our pets. So I'm going to guess that pets would prefer to have a wild diet rather than our kind of, I guess, McDonald's diet. Maybe it tastes better, I don't know. It's unfortunate I can't really interview the animals on this, because that would be the greatest thing, but I'm just having to go by presumptions. And from what I've seen and what I've observed, also some very bad pet owners I've come across, I'm presuming that most animals would prefer not to be pets. Number 4, how much is the pet industry worth? It's painful to say, but some people will probably buy a pet much like they would buy a piece of furniture for their house. It becomes like a possession of theirs and not a free will being with the capability to do as it pleases. In America, the pet industry is worth $99 billion a year. In the UK, it's worth £7 billion a year. That's a hell of a lot of money that's involved in the pet industry. The Countess Carlotta Liebenstein of Germany left approximately $106 million to her German Shepherd, Günther III, in 1992. Her trustees invested the money and tripled the fortune. When Günther IV was born, he officially became the wealthiest dog alive. It has been reported that his fortune has grown to more than $372 million. That's one dog on planet Earth that owns $372 million. A dog does not need that amount of money, and it's not good for it, and it's not good for our society, in my opinion, that stuff like that goes on. And the amount of money that's involved in the pet industry is obviously going to result in corruption. People always push to get more profit. The animals are the ones suffering for that because they get treated like products, and unfortunately I don't think that that's the great thing that it's become such a business. as it is. And every year, the pet industry becomes more and more valuable and more money is made from it. And we're buying products that we don't need for our animals and for our pets. So I'd like to go to the fifth question, which is it ever justifiable to have a pet? I guess when you listen to everything that I've just said now, it could appear that having a pet would not be justifiable. I will say, however, that humanity has created the pet industry. We've bred many types of animals in unnatural ways to the point where they can't survive by themselves. We can't release chickens into the wild who come from mass chicken farms because they will die within a day pretty much. They're so reliant on us now. And there are types of dogs as well who can't survive outside without a coat because of the way we've bred them. So it's now our responsibility to look after these animals. I would personally say getting a pet is okay if it's a rescue pet, and if you have the finances, the time and the energy to look after that pet properly, and if you can do it in an environmentally friendly way. So for example, with our dog, we have paper poop bags. We couldn't actually find dog paper poop bags in the UK, so we use sandwich bags instead, because there wasn't a product on the market like that. I know paper also has its own problems, but we didn't trust any of the plastic bags available for that. So we're trying to do that to help the environment. I would also say, for example, if you have a cat, cats, as we discussed, do a lot of damage to the ecosystem and to the environment and to the animals living within the environment. And so if you have a cat that roams around freely, you're doing so with the knowledge it's going to kill thousands of animals over its lifetime. Unfortunately, I think for our cat friends, the best thing for them is to be house cats. In that sense, it's a terrible thing to say because I want them to have a great life as well. But then it would be like pitting the pet cat against the lives of hundreds or thousands of wild animals. The other problem, as discussed, is your pet cat, especially if it's not been neutered, can possibly breed with feral cats, which are causing so much damage to the environment. For anyone who does have a pet cat and they still want to let their cat roam freely, I would say it would be best if they get a collar with a bell on it so that animals can hear them sneaking up. It's not going to work 100% of the time. They're still going to kill a lot. Unfortunately, it's within their nature, but it might help. The other thing is, I do not condone neutering your animal. Imagine somebody coming to you, forcibly taking you away to a dark room somewhere, or a light room, and neutering you, making sure you can't have children. That's a horrible and traumatizing experience, and I wouldn't want that to happen to any animal. However, with a pet cat, it's complicated, because if you release those cats outside of your house and they're not neutered and they reproduce, they're causing so much damage to the environment. So that would be the only instance that I would personally say that maybe neutering an animal would be best, but better still would be if you have your cat in a house and you have a very big house with a stimulating environment for them. Otherwise, I'd say having a pet cat is not great, and obviously getting a rescue cat's much better than buying a cat from a breeder who's doing that for business, basically. There are so many different animals that need our help. There's rescue homes filled up with animals and they're living in tiny little cages. It's better for an animal that has a very uninspiring life in a rescue home to be with an owner who cares for it properly. So I guess I'm saying it's best if we rehome rescue animals, but we don't buy directly from breeders, because that's feeding back into the system that animals are products for business. And that's not what we want to do. We want to respect animals as equal beings and give them as much freedom as possible. That's what I personally want to do. It's a hard vlog to talk about and a hard bit of information to take in, and thank you for bearing with me through that. If you have any questions, let me know about it, or if there's any particular pet you want me to focus on in a future vlog, I'd be happy to do so. Thank you for watching. Have a great day. See you later.